Hello, Blue Justin here, still Justin, still not blue, and it's time for another video. So, this time out we've got a couple of unboxings for you, both big boxes to unbox, and both with a bit of a savings story theme going on behind them. So, this could help you to save some money in the future, whether or not it's on these items or potentially on the theme of these items, and I'll explain as I go along. Okay, get ready for the first one. Right, okay, first up we're heading over to the Far East, and as you might have guessed by the caption card, this is a SureScope production box that I managed to pick up, and this one is volume 2. This one, I'm afraid to tell you, is now out of print, so my trick won't work for you, but I will tell you the story behind it whilst I prepare to unbox it. Essentially what happened was I'd opened an account with Arrow, but I never actually bought anything from them, as every time I looked I noticed that the packaging posting that they add usually made things more expensive than going from a mainstream buyer, even though I would get percentage off because it's my first order. Because Arrow give 10% off your first order. Now, because I hadn't actually used this 10% off my first order, they obviously essentially they must have got bored, and they emailed me to say, tell you what, if you actually put in an order, we'll give you 15% off your first order. So I obviously trotted along to the Arrow store. And if I said Amazon any point during that last little speech, I meant Arrow. So I went along and I had a look at what was the sale. I was going to actually pre-order the upcoming Killer release, the Woo Cherry on Fat, but it wasn't applicable except if what you were ordering was in stock. I couldn't get it for future orders. So I had a look at what they had, and this volume 2, I'll just take it out of the bit, and that's the back. This one was a very good price. In fact, I checked around, and looking at the regular prices on Amazon, HMVs, they actually were quite different from each other. I can't remember exact details, but they were varied around between around the 90 to 130 pounds at the time. I think it was supposed to be 170 pounds recommended retail, but as we know, recommended retail doesn't often, after a little while, bear huge amount of relationship to what you can actually get it for. But we really were still talking over £100 in most places that you had to pay to get this. However, I noticed that it was on Arrow's site for, I think it was about £60, and with my 15% off, like I said, if you haven't got an account there, just go and set one up. Wait long enough and they'll probably do the same for you. And so I decided, well, I'll put in an order for this one. So, in including that 15% and the fact it was much, much cheaper than elsewhere, even with the packaging posting of about £5 or something, because it's quite a big box. And even when you consider the box is this size, you would not believe the box it came in. Honestly, no exaggeration, about this. There was so much loose space and paper around it, but at least it didn't get damaged. So that was good. It was a bit of a fight and a wait to actually get it. First thing that happened was oh, we can't get it to you at the moment. We appear to have a problem with stock in the warehouse. And they said that a couple of times. And then I wrote to them and they said, well, we have got stock. We're just out of stock at the moment, or we can't find it in the warehouse, sort of thing. Well, they didn't admit they couldn't find it, but it's just that they're having temporary hold up. Then it went out of stock at the warehouse, and I'm thinking, how can it be out of stock at the warehouse, considering you're the company who makes it? I knew they couldn't really argue that it was out of stock when I ordered, because if it was, then they wouldn't have allowed me to order it, because that's one of the prerequisites of having the 15% off. So they must have had stock, so they should have been obliged to fulfill the order. And then I saw it suddenly go, they couldn't find it out of stock totally at their warehouse. So I thought I better write to them again, and they had to write back and say, well, we're hoping to get it back into stock in the next 2 weeks. And I'm thinking, how can you not have it in stock? You're the people who make it. And then I started to see it go out of print at Amazon and HMV and that sort of thing. And I thought, oh, here we go. And all of a sudden, though, Arrow came good to their word, and they obviously had set one aside, but they were obviously over in different parts of warehouses all over the country, or different batches or whatever. But finally, they got around to sending it to me. So this is what they sent. And like I said, here we go. Lovely big box at the front. And that's the back ends. I think just hold up the card. I don't know whether that's in focus. It's very hard to see even back here. And if you need to zoom, or I'll just try to hold it as steady as possible. Inside here we have a big bookletty thing. Lots of words, pictures, each of the movies in there. Got the contents for each of the movies that are in the box set itself, and each of those, this is how they're presented for anyone who doesn't have one of these sets. They are in a thing like that. You just have to, some people don't like these, but I don't think they're too bad as long as you're careful getting them out of this little dip. In fact, I should just take that one out. It's reasonably easy. And I shall check that's okay. There we go, straight out, no problem. And there we go. No, it's not quite perfectly easy. Anyway, okay, I give up trying to show everything on camera, so I can use my fingers to get it up. But anyway, yeah, was using two hands, it's easy enough to get back in. And each page has the artwork to this side, and the write-up with the specs and the name and the disc on this side. So very nice indeed overall. The reason I would mention that this is potentially a future bargain for you out there, even though it's now out of print, I would say that there presently is I'll do that in a minute. There's presently a volume 3 and 4 that are out there, and I would imagine, and obviously no promises, but I would imagine that at some point in the same sort of timescales, and you can probably work it out from release dates, it shouldn't be too difficult to work out the time of release of volume 2 to when it went out of print very recently, work that out for volume 3 and potentially for volume 4 as well later, maybe a little bit longer, because as they go further on, obviously obviously the movies will become less of the mainstream ones, less well known, then I would say that when it looks like you can work out it's likely to go out of print quite soon, it seems that the mainstream shops like Amazon, HMV and Zavvi, etc. don't necessarily know that it's about to go out of print, so their prices remain high. But Arrow themselves, knowing that it's about to go out of print, they want to clear their shelves for new stock coming through, so they will drop the price. In this case, like I said, everyone else selling around 90 to 120 pounds, something like that. This one was dropped to 60 pounds or even less at times, by a couple of quid. And if it's your first order as well, you'll get at least 10%, 15% if you're lucky like me and get that. Please use up your first time usage offer. We notice you haven't used it type of thing. And then that is the moment to pounce. So I would honestly suggest that this might be a repeating pattern for the future. So keep an eye if you're interested in anything like these short scope big box sets. Then keep an eye out for when number 3 is likely to go out of print, following the same pattern. I'll just quickly run through the contents of this one. You've got the 36th Chamber of Shaolin, Return to the 36th Chamber, Disciples of the 36th Chamber, Mad Monkey Kung Fu, 5 Super Fighters, Invincible Shaolin, The Kid with the Golden Arm, Magnificent Ruffians, 10 Tigers of Kwangtung, My Young Auntie, that was me, why? Mercenaries from Hong Kong, The Boxer's Omen, Martial Arts of Shaolin, and The Barefooted Kid. And then there's the music from a number of these films on discs 9 and 10. That's as CDs in addition. So we've got varying aspect ratios. The audio is usually Mandarin or Cantonese mono original, and sometimes they have an English dub. I don't know if that's on all of them or not. It doesn't give details on the back to that level. It would only give that on each of the pages. For example, I can see that Mercenaries from Hong Kong and the box, it's got uncompressed Cantonese and Mandarin original mono audio for both films, plus English mono for the Mercenaries from Hong Kong, so implying that Boxer's Omen it doesn't. So yeah, some of it will have dub, some of it won't, but obviously all of it will have subtitles, probably be done to a modern high standard. And that I shall leave there for your consideration. Like I said, I was lucky and therefore got that one at, I can't remember the overall result of, after all of that, with upping and toing and throwing and percentages and whatnot, when everybody else was selling it for over £90, I got it as a final result, including package and posting, and having to wait a bit and having a little couple of email discussions, of £56. So an absolutely incredible saving over the recommended retail of about 170. And I suggest to you that that is not an unreasonable thing that might happen again in the future. And please do look out for it. And I hope that you're as successful as I was with this one. And let's move on to something a little bit closer to home, though in actual fact it was backed by someone actually a bit further also over towards the States as well as the UK, and that is okay. This one I'm going to go with the reuse of something with a Union Jack, because I can't find this t-shirt, which I'm saving for just this moment for so long, and now of course can't find it. Okie dokie. So yes, this one is the 4K release of the new Avengers. Now, as the keen-eyed of you might have noticed, and it relates to the also to my cover card for this video, this one does not have the British rating markings on it, and it also has the subtitle of Chapeau à melon et bottes de cuir. Now, I happen to know that that is the French direct translation of what they call the Avengers and the New Avengers in France, which is bowler hat and leather boots. So thus the picture, which makes sense now. Now, this is why I'm saying that this could be a huge bargain for you, and it might still be, and you've really just got to catch it at the right moment. And I don't necessarily mean if you've missed it, it's gone. It just seems to go in waves and unpredictable patterns, and I shall try to explain a little bit why during this next section as to how I picked it up, and how, if you're interested, you can get a bargain on this one too. The UK 4K of this, if we start off at that, is around, or is supposed to be about the £140, £150 RRP mark. In actual fact, it normally goes for around about the 120, 130, even if it's even sort of like now after a little while. Though I'll go a little bit more into that in a moment. When I noticed that this French release was almost, I believe they're the identical discs. I haven't obviously unboxed it because I haven't put them in, but I'm very, very confident from all the information I've got that the discs are identical, and it's just the packaging and the additional bits and pieces that are different. I noticed that this French 4K release, instead of being the 130, 140 pounds or so the UK one was, it was even if you add on the VAT and the postage for something this size, so I just took that off the back, postage for something this size from Amazon France, this turns out to be, in my particular case, on the day of buying, £81.04. Okay, not cheap, but a heck of a lot cheaper than 130 for the UK one. I will obviously have to say that your lovely collector's booklet will have all your lovely pictures in it, but obviously your writing is going to be in French. So if you do want to do your research, you're going to have a minimum, you're going to have to get out your phone's translation circuit and scan it in. Actually, wouldn't be too difficult. And also the same thing on the, oh, actually, no, how interesting. I was not expecting this. This is the new Avengers extra comic that they included. Now, what I expected was that the comic would also be in French, but I've just opened it up to find that the lettering is all in English. So despite the fact it's a French release, It's just the collector's booklet that says about the filming and whatnot. That's in French. The comic itself you can actually read. That's all in English if I want to do that. Okay, so inside, like I said, we have the collector's booklet, we have that comic. On the back we've got that and that. Here we've got season 1 and season 2. Yes, the titles of each of the adventures and the descriptions are in French, as you would expect them to be in a French release. Similarly there. But is that us? I believe. Is that a small enough price for you are willing to pay for the same discs? What I believe are the same discs. Different discs or significantly different output for 2 different markets of 4Ks for a limited, should we say, marketplace release, and therefore I'm also confident that even though it does have French subtitles, unlike some usually the older titles, no, the French subtitles for these are not going to be forced. I believe there are French dubs and French subs that are optional. So that would be not. So yeah, inside each of these, those of you who hate stacking will be pleased that this Digi is got 1 disc per foldable page, whatever, so that's not going to rub on any of the discs or be bad for them in that way. There you got, that would be the back, though again obviously you can't read that unless you can speak French. You can read it but can't understand it unless you can speak French. But again, if you scan that with your phone, that's a 20-second job. Those are so clever nowadays. So yeah, quickly going back to my whole point about the pricing. The UK one does vary up and down. I saw it just the other day on Amazon, you know, where they put those, just tick here and we will apply an automated voucher at checkout, so, but you can only have 1 voucher per person, and it reduced it suddenly down from 120 or 125 pounds or 130, whatever it is at the moment, down to about £90 I think it is, or £95. So if you were desperate for the English version, because you really didn't want the French lettering or whatever on the box, and you did want the collector's booklet that comes to the English one, then you could wait until that potentially happens again. And by the way, these are, I shall just put up here the 2 overall pack shots of the insides of the English or UK set rather, and the French set, and label them quite clearly so you can see the difference up there. What I'll also do, now that I've given you a quick shot of those, is point out that in preparation for this video I thought I'd pop over to the Amazon France again to make sure that I got my details on what they were charging the prices at were spot on for the video. I went in yesterday and suddenly found that how come I got this for 80 something euros plus postage again, whatever. Yet all of a sudden I looked at it and it was there 140 something euros, and if I checked the price tracker, this is the French price tracker, you'll see that it states that it has never been anything except 140 something euros, despite the fact that I know for a fact it was, because that's from the price I bought it at. Now, as if to prove my point, I went back today, and this again is exactly the same price tracker that says never changed from 140 something euros, 150 something like that. Yeah, this is the price today. Well, it's probably about the same price exactly that let's start that again in English. This is in the region of the price I paid, certainly in the same ballpark, and this is saying that it's this price in the 80s euro mark, yet the price tracker is still saying it's 140 something, and it's never changed, and it isn't 89 at the moment. Yeah, it's disagreeing on the same page at the moment, whereas at least on the UK price tracker you can see that the tracking does vary. I'm not sure whether that takes into account this voucher, 1 day or 2 day voucher. That might have been that little drop very recently that I caught, I noticed. But sometimes I don't think the tracker picks up the voucher, it only picks up the headline. So you not only are getting on the UK one, you're suddenly getting drops that maybe are going up against some other stockist that's got a sale on, but you've also got these occasional times where they'll throw in here, have a £40 off if you happen to buy it in the next 24 hours voucher. You just have to tick here. It's one of those on Amazon. I don't know why they do it, but they do. Just tick here and they apply it at checkout. There's no prerequisites. You don't have to buy anything else with it or anything like that. So yeah, all I can say is, if you want this for what I got it for, which was including, like I said, packaging, postage, blah blah blah, from France, £81.04, including the exchange rate, etc. I would keep an eye on the French one. Like I said, yesterday it was showing it was 150 euros. Today it's showing that it's 80 euros. Could go up again tomorrow. I wouldn't be at all surprised if it came down again the day after, whatever. I'm sure if you keep watching it, if you're interested in getting this, if you just keep watching it and keep a track on it for a couple of weeks, then you can probably pick up a day when it'll work. But don't use the, for example, as I was saying there, don't use that camel tracker like I normally do, and that's the bar that I've shown you, because it will not pick up that price drop, because at the moment the camel is showing that it's 150 euros and the price on the page is showing it's 80 euros, so it's not picking it up. What I do imagine might work is if you go into ChatGPT and say, can you keep an eye on the price, scan the page for me at 24-hour intervals or whatever, then that might work. I don't know, depends on what level of ChatGPT or whatever you've got. There's another use for it that you don't necessarily have to complain about, even if you don't like AI much. I use it quite a lot for that, keeping an eye on prices at regular intervals. So yeah, if you want discs at a good price, I would say the French ones is certainly at the moment is a good price, and with the exchange rate, even with the additional postage and whatnot, you can probably import it for 80 quid instead of paying about 120, 130 for the UK copy. And also, if you really want the UK one but don't want to spend the 120, 130, keep an eye out it's regularly having that little itty bit sudden drop for a couple of days down to around the 90 mark. So if you don't mind paying that extra £10-15 and waiting, then I wait for it's certainly worth doing, and you can pick that potential bargain up that way. So yeah, I think I shall draw that one to a close here. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. It really does help the channel. And subscribe if you haven't done already. I do hope that these the piece of advice that I've given today and my stories about them have been interesting, and also that they can potentially help you in future and give you the thing that you can, just by keeping an eye on things. Don't always necessarily trust these price trackers. They don't always pick up everything. And also I hope just seeing the nice insides of these lovely box sets was nice as well. Like I said, I haven't done a huge detail, but that's, like I said, quickly doing it again. That's the back of the New Avengers from France. That's the front. And we've got, yeah, bowler hat, leather boots as they're known. And as I say, that was your rear. It's on there. And all the rest of the gubbins that goes inside. And again, as you can see, with it being Arrow, loads and loads of descriptions and goodness abounding in that one. I should try to hold that as steady as possible for you before I leave. Okay, thank you again for watching. I will be back with another video relatively soon, I hope. And in the meantime, if you're watching it soon after it's been released, I do hope you're enjoying your Easter weekend and have a good Monday off if you are getting that as a bank holiday. And if not, I hope you're getting paid extra for going in and working on one. Okay, thank you very much indeed for watching, and bye.